All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wide Open. I am your host, Ashlyn Harris, and today we have the very beautiful and talented Carolyn Wiger. Welcome to the
Thank,
show, babe.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. If those of you out there don't know, listeners or whoever's watching, Carolyn was on Survivor and the newest season of Traitors, which you had an iconic run. Honestly, I think everyone can safely say that you and Gabby have been the MVPs of this show. You've actually made it. So thanks for giving us all entertainment and to get out of our realities in the real world because fuck, we need it right now.
Right? That's what these shows do. And when I was watching season two, because I don't watch a lot of TV. I really don't. I never have. So I'm not into I absolutely don't watch like The Bachelor or Big Brother. I don't watch a ton of shows. But I do love the Traitors. And so when I got a call while season two was playing live, I just was, I was ecstatic. I was literally wearing a cloak, wearing my parvati headbands. Because I would dress up while I watched, because that's how I am, like to make it fun. And then I never thought I would be on though,
Oh
like
my
not this soon.
gosh. Fully
Hmm.
committed. I tell you what, though, it is a great show. It has been so fun to see. This is why I love unscripted stuff, to really see people's personalities, because it really
Oh,
is. It's like bananas every week, every episode. It's just like you have no idea what's going to happen. And it's always batshit crazy, which is
yep,
fun and it's entertaining. And like I love that part because I'm not a reality television kind of girl either.
yep.
But you know, when I see my gay girlies out there tatted up, I'm like, here to support. What do you need? I'm in. And I just love the personality you all are bringing to the table, even outside of the show, to really get to know who you are and how you show up in the
Yeah.
world. And that's why I love this podcast so much. Wide Open for me is so much about who we are outside of what we do.
Hmm.
And you hit and check every box. Your story has
Oh,
been so inspiring. It has been absolutely incredible to hear and witness what you've done and, you know, addiction and gosh, I mean, you're so open and honest in every interview on your social media about the life you've walked.
yep.
And I want to start from the beginning because I do think it's important before we like just put the cherry on top and everyone sees you,
Yeah.
you know, for the way you are now. There was a lot that happened before that. So who's the Carolyn that was the little girl, you know, growing up? What was it like? What did you want to be? Who did you want to be? Where did things take a turn?
See, that's the thing. Because I mean, I grew up in a supportive family. Like, I didn't have a lot of people will think too, like with addiction, it's like there's all this like horrible stuff that happened like in my childhood. Or no, my parents were truly great. Like, my
Hmm.
dad was super supportive. I had like a supportive upbringing, but it was like always this feeling like, okay, I want to just like the risk taking, and I want to like see how far I can like just get away with something. And I think even to an extent now, like it's like that always is like a part of me, and I have to watch it because it's like, okay, no, like you're going to get in trouble. Don't do that. You know, remember like Paris Hilton, where it was almost like bad attention is any attention, but back when
Hmm.
like when her and Nicole, like when they were just being all naughty, that's like how I felt, like where it was just like I was doing stuff. And it's crazy because I watched this Jenna Jameson, E True Hollywood Story. I don't know if you remember that. And she like
Oh
ripped her
yeah.
braces off and she became and I was like, whoa, that sounds. And it's like, what the hell? Why was I? And I grew up playing sports. I grew up like in support, but I had this like, ooh, I want to be bad.
Bad.
Meant yes. And so once you get started on, and like that's the thing with addiction. So it was like, okay, I'm gonna try to rip my braces off. Let me see if I can be a stripper. Like it's like, wait,
Yes.
so yeah, literally tried to rip my braces off. I was 16 years old, and as soon as they had because I didn't want to like be employed at a strip club, you know what I'm saying? I didn't,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And as soon as, and I had a fake name, and then I'm like, as soon as they made me like do the social security, like put my social security number, I'm like, okay, that's where I gotta like just roll out. I can't have my like, what am I gonna fill out, do tax forms for like, no. And so I rolled out. And I had my dad like many times in my life just try to intervene and try to just like save me, so to speak. And so he always was trying to get me down the right path, but I was experimenting with drugs, with alcohol. And then I graduated, I went to college. I transferred so many different times that I ended up not even technically graduating, but I didn't even know it until 3 years later, which is crazy. But I would go and I would move and I would start at another school. And there's that saying, everywhere you go, there you are. Yeah, no shit. And so I would try to create a whole new, like, oh, I'm new. And everything would happen all over again because I was still using and still drinking. So I would try to like restart. And I ended up transferring 5 different times, 5 different schools, and doing the same thing over and over and over and over. I remember I transferred to this one school, and before school even started, I got arrested. It was just like the same and I remember they had like the story in like the student newspaper, and I was so freaking embarrassed. Like I just felt like stupid. Like, oh my gosh, like who am I? I remember I got a job at the Dairy Queen to like pay off my fines. And then I'm like, I can't work. Like, of course, I'm too good for the Dairy Queen. So I like lied, didn't even last a few hours there. But I'm like, what am I going to be like? What can I do with my life? And I remember so many times my dad coming in and just trying to be like, there was one time he came to I was living in like a whatever in college. And I just still have this vision of him. And I think I had just overdosed or something. I was in the hospital. And I don't remember any of this. Like I truly, if I hadn't have seen like, and same with like getting arrested, I wouldn't, it's like I just blacked it out. Well, I was blacked out. And I remember there would be times where I would have like fines and I would hide them in my room. And then I would think like, okay, I'm going to wake up and it's not
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, out of sight. None of that works. None of that works. And so I have these like vivid memories of my dad just like begging me to stop. There was one time I'm like, what? I was in the hospital? I don't even remember getting there. And then I remember, but I do have this like vision of my dad like being in the patio door. He had a bag of like just a whole bag, like a loaf of bread, and then like a thing of chicken just to feed me.
Crazy the things that your mind remembers.
That's what I remember. And he's like, you need to get out. We got to get you out of here. And I remember I was like getting ready for a night out and blah. Like, it's such a false, like, I had so many beliefs back then about like what all younger people drink and are partying. And like, no, not everyone lives this like life of just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I thought but those were the people that I was surrounding myself with. So when I got sober.
So what made you get sober? Let's go there myself. Then. But it sounds like when you talk about the need and want to continue to start over in new environments, to me, that sounds like you were running from something.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So what were you running from? Like, what made you want that type of... Because some people hate the thought of starting over. It's like a new challenge, right? Some people like to be uncomfortable. Some people don't. So it sounds like you enjoy it, which is what makes you great on all these shows as well. But what were you running from?
Myself. Because again, I would go to a school and I would get arrested. I would get in trouble, and it was embarrassing. Like it was truly embarrassing. So I was known as that person, just like, oh, that's the one who had to go to the hospital, or it was embarrassing. Like that's the one who like passed out over here on the sidewalk or whatever. That's the one. So it like there was stories that followed me, and so it just was like, I don't want to be this person, and I didn't. Like I would like sober up, and no one wants to be that. So I would be like, okay, I can start new and start fresh, but never ever changing a damn thing. Yeah. So it's like, no shit. It's going to be the same result everywhere I go. But just the embarrassment of like everything I did
when I was the shame, all of it. Oh.
So I felt like shit. And even talking about it now, it's like, I just don't care. Like this is real life and I'm not that person anymore. And I truly do believe in just being super open, because that's how we connect with people. That's how I'm able to just relate to people and just truly connect. I didn't have that when I wasn't sober. So I there was nothing more that I craved than just real
Mm,
communication, authentic connections with people. And so I put it all out there, which it does scare people. I don't like it does even now. Like it's like, oh, that's a little bit too much. So I know right away when I'm like talking with someone, or am I going to vibe with this person or not? But
yeah.
I don't connect over small talk. I am right away like, what's your trauma? What have you
Yeah,
been
but
through?
that we have to be able to talk about it, to unpack it, to share our scars because so many people are living silent battles. And it is our job to be brave enough in our story and sit in it to be able to tell it and live it through storytelling and through sharing. Like I have been an addict. I have done things I am not proud of. I was a professional athlete for a very long time and I still didn't get a lot of shit right. And somehow I was really fucking good at making people believe I had it all
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. How exhausting though, too.
Yes, it is. And that's where I guess my next question, which I ask everyone on the podcast, what was the moment that split you wide open? Like, what was that moment in your life that really the light switched on that changed everything?
My like moment, my big moment was I had moved so many different times, and it was the same result every single time. And I got to this point. Well, first of all, I had like court mandated treatments and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
my last treatment, I had this counselor who just was like, okay, pointed out all these things in my life. And for the first time, I was kind of like, oh shit,
Ooh,
this makes sense.
yeah.
And he was like, why don't you just give this a chance? Why don't you just try it? See how you like it. Go back to the other way if that's what you want to do. But why don't you just give this a. And I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? And I got a calendar, and he told me, write it down, check the days off that you're sober. And I'm thinking, like,
Mm,
ugh. And it truly became this thing where I was checking off the days, checking off the days, checking, and it became a lifestyle. It became something that I started to buy into. I would go to
mm,
meetings, and I would listen to people who had like a year, and I would tell myself, hell no, I'm not going to get there, and I didn't even want to at the time, because
mm.
I'm like a baby. And it's like, if you tell me anything, like you're never ever going to be able to do this again, or use, or do the blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'll prove you wrong, or
Yep.
I still had that stupid mentality. But what the huge change was like, oh my God, I started to buy into it. But I hated myself
Hmm.
before that. And I felt so shitty that it was like, it was never ever like, okay, I'm overdosing, or I'm getting arrested, or I'm letting these people down. That was not like my bottom. And I personally don't even believe in bottom, because I feel like the bottom is death. Like people say,
Yeah.
like I could have kept going. It was not being able to look at myself in the mirror and then truly just giving it a chance and being like, oh my God, like I can't go back the other way. And I truly I started to look forward to things, but I didn't know who the hell I was. So I cut my hair off. I like dyed it brown. I didn't know how to dress. Like I would only wear like black, and I was trying to be super serious
Mm.
because I didn't know if my personality, I'm like, is this like a product of drugs? I didn't know. And so I was like, is this me, or is this, I didn't know. And again, my whole life, even before addiction, I was the hyper kid. I was the kid in class. I remember being separated from the rest of my class. Like, you're like way too
Same.
ADHD. Yep.
Same, honey. I
It,
was in the portables and the blacktop in the back of the school.
yes. And
Yep.
it's like teachers wouldn't even we can't do that anymore. Come on. But I was told, like, don't talk to anybody unless you're spoken to. I mean, it was horrible. So from a young age, it was like, there is something wrong with you. I felt that early on.
Yeah.
So growing up, it was like, oh, so I didn't know who I was. And I did all the chameleon stuff and trying to like
Yep.
talk a different way, or trying to, and
To
so
fit
all
in. Yeah.
fit in and
Fit in
change.
outside of our own fucking
Yep.
circumstance. And
Yep.
people like us are so good at it.
It
Like,
sucks.
so good at it. With that because it's interesting, right? When you unpack who you were as an addict and, abusing alcohol or whatever the case is, did you have a complex in finding a new identity, or were you the same inside the whole time? Like, because I think you transition into this new person, and the way you show up, you actually get credentials to be a licensed counselor, correct? Life
Yep.
coach. Like, you really made a lot of heavy changes, but I'm curious about your identity, because I do think that's a big question mark of who I was before I was sober, and what is that going to look like now that I am.
So I had no idea who I was, and that's the truth. And so
Mm.
what I did was because I didn't know, like, I know I've always been kind of quirky and loud and whatever. It truly came down to just embracing it and being okay with it. Because, like I said, the first year, I was like, I cut my hair off. I was trying to be really serious. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This isn't me. And obviously, as we grow older, we change anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, I need to figure out who I am. And I really did. I did so much therapy. I was in treatment, and I just used that opportunity, that time, to just everything I didn't like about myself, everything. And I'm not talking like everything that society's pointed out and said that it is weird or is different. No, things that I truly like was uncomfortable with. I remember wanting to be able to communicate more, share my
Mm.
feelings more. I didn't want to hold things in. That's why I'm so emotional now. It's like, I don't care if I'm crying, right? Like, I cry over everything. I don't
Yep.
care. I don't want to learn how to manage my tears or my emotions. I don't want to. I let it out. I don't care what anyone says about that. Like, emotional regulation, please.
I think there's a lot of power and bravery in that. So I love that you choose to not filter your emotional connection with people. I think there's so much beauty in it. And that's, I think, what makes you special, and why people love you on these shows, because they can feel it. It's not bullshit. People can
No.
smell bullshit right away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so this has been just like a discovering who I am through really, like, truly hard work and therapy and just acceptance of self and trying new things. I didn't have any, like, I didn't know, what are my interests? I had no idea anymore.
Mm.
So I literally, like, just, I thought back to my childhood, everything that made me happy when I was a kid, and I just started from there. And I started volunteering at a rabbit rescue. I was playing like softball, and I was in a bowling league and doing all this bullshit that,
That sounds lit, actually.
like it was like, at the time I was like, what the heck am I, like, it was very like, it wasn't the norm for me, but it felt good to just put myself outside of my comfort zone and just figure out who I was. And actually, I realized that, like, before, all of my connections, all my relationships were bullshit. It was all just surface level
Mm.
BS conversations. And what are we bonding over? Like, a bunch of bullshit. So I'm like, if I wasn't like drinking or using with these people, what would we have in common? What? Nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I never want to go back to that. I never want to just go back to, like, plopping on the couch and doing nothing and having no actual real connection with people. So I really was like, that's what motivated me to just, like, I'm having those deep conversations. I'm gonna actually have real relationships with people. So I just
Yes.
don't do surface anymore. I really struggle. And even in these shows, I struggle because it's like, I can't do the, God, when we would go down to the breakfast room and all that, and like, hi, it's hard for me. I don't, so like, the first impressions, I'm terrible at. Um, Getting to know people, like, that's why, like, let's not even talk about dating, because no, thank you. Like, I
Yeah.
freak people out.
But I think what people don't realize, and this might not be true to you, so I'm curious, because like when you talk, like I see a lot of my experience in your storytelling. And I think a big key component in my healing was to help other people heal.
Yes.
I think that is the greatest gift in grief, is while you're healing, to be able to serve other people. There is nothing more humbling and more just profound to think in a moment of such extreme survival that you're willing to be selfless enough to serve. That is so profound to me. And it's the way I live my life. And now how I choose to show up in every season, whether good or bad, is how do I serve the people around me? When they won't give anything back to me, how do I still find something in me to provide a better life for them, a better opportunity, a better way for them to see themselves, and maybe eventually to serve others for good in their own circumstance. So I would assume you feel that because you are a servant of other people now. It's what you did through your own sobriety is to help counsel others. Do you feel that's true to you as well?
Absolutely. But in the same regard, too, I've been learning and this is like only recently, because like even just getting out of a bad relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting because I had just quit like my full-time job, and I was going to go do the life coaching stuff and just go essentially be my own boss, do my own stuff. And I mean, it was scary. When I became a drug counselor, it was like, I told myself back then, I can't struggle anymore. I used to tell myself, especially early on in recovery, that like I need to use all this time to like fix myself and then be done and ready to help others. I have now learned throughout like the last 15 years that it's like struggles are still going to happen. And that doesn't mean that I still can't show up for other people, because I used to think that like I can't be like, because I'm hard on myself sometimes. And it's like, even when I left this relationship and I was just really starting over, I'm like, am I in a position to even be able to help people right now? And then I'm like, you know what? Screw that. That's the best time to help people. There's certain experiences that I've been through that have forever changed me. And it's like, I'm never going to be fully healed from like a lot of the stuff that I've been through. Yeah. So it's like, no, it helps me to help other people. And it again, I don't ever want to like come off like I have it all together or I'm perfect. I'm not. That's the first thing I say when I meet with people. But also, that's why people will schedule sessions with me, is because they're like, you're not perfect. You don't present to be perfect. No one wants to be meeting with someone and sharing all their secrets or sharing all their trauma or pain or addiction stuff with somebody who is perfect. And so it's like,
we get judged enough. Like carrying other people's expectations and judgments is just, I don't have the energy and space to do anymore. And I love that about you. So what led you to reality television? All of a sudden, like what? Okay, I want to go on Survivor. Boom.
Don't even get me started. Because I've never
like that's some real shit. Like, that's not easy.
Truly, like, just, I'm not kidding you. It's so random. And now, like, looking back, I'm like, girl, I wish I would have done this earlier. But at the same time, I'm like, no, because I was so messed up back then that, like, please. But, no, I had grown up watching the show, watching Survivor. Same. I stopped watching it, like I think a lot of people did. Like I'm like, oh.
Well, there's like 100 seasons at this point.
Yeah, like there's so many. And so I stopped watching it. Then I got back into it. I'm like, wow, this would be cool. And I remember like I was playing like online Survivor games with my sister and stuff. And I don't even know why, for fun, whatever, like something to do. And I would get so into it. So it was completely like out of the blue. I was playing one of my like online games, and I believe like someone at work or something was like, gosh, you'd be like, have you ever thought about applying? Or just like connecting with other fans or other people who love the show. They're like, you'd be great. And I'm like, seriously? And I just, out of nowhere, I just applied and I got a call right away. And I couldn't believe, I'm like, what? Like, I didn't think I would. I just sent in some video. It was not good, in my opinion. But then I got rejected for like 2 years later, and then I finally got on.
Oh my gosh. So you just like, it's just an audition process. You're like, you know what? I really like the show. I think I'd be a great like asset to it. I'm just going to like make the phone call, look it up, and sign myself up.
Yeah, it really was random. I had no desire to, I made this video because I was doing like video diaries before I left. And I literally say in that, I say, okay, this is just a small piece of my life, a
Yeah.
small little segment, and then I'm going to go back into my real life, and then this is going to be over. I say that because I had zero intention of like doing anything else after. I thought, oh, that was one of the things that inspired me to apply too, is I was like, there's just not like, aren't it like, isn't there anyone else like me? And it's like, yeah, duh, of
Yeah,
course
it's a
there are, but
little,
we
yeah.
don't. And so I was like, okay, I'm not relating to these people. Like, heck no, do they feel? No, I want to, I had, and I started to get this like dream of like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be myself in a game where everybody is like lies about everything. So I'm like, let me see if I can do it. And I totally thought that I'm going to go out there. Everyone's going to make fun of me. I'm going to be like the freak of the season. That's truly what I thought. But I was like, I don't fucking care. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it anyway, and I'm going to just put it all out there. I'm going to cry. I'm going to and scare people, not on purpose, but like, and I'm just going to let it out and see what happens.
Yeah, but why would you? I think it's interesting that you say that because you say it so often.
Yeah.
Like, what are people going to make fun of? The fact that you're just real and honest? Like, that's the beauty of knowing yourself and like actually showing up exactly who you are. There are women who are still 50, 60 years old who are just
Oh
so
God.
suppressed and so want to
Yep.
make sure I got to fit this like mold and I got to be this
Yep.
perfect little housewife and I have to do, clean and cook and be in the kitchen. And I'm like, no, we need to blow that shit up. That's actually not great. If you want to do that, totally support it. But like, stop pretending. Let's just be real.
Yep.
And I think the differences are what make us all so beautiful. Why not just show up exactly who the fuck you are and be totally unapologetic about it? I think that's why people love you. Why you think Sia all of a sudden is sending you six-figure checks being like, I know this bitch lost, but fuck, she brought us all so much joy. She should win something. Like that's you just being you.
And that's what, oh gosh, that truly, again, it's like, just feeling that from her and having her and then even just the or the Zoom and then meeting her in
So
person,
cool.
and like it is, I was like, I never thought that that stuff would happen. And again, it's like, I might say, I guess I just know how like typically people like me are edited on like shows like this. And
Tell
so
me about that. That's what I want to know. That is how real is it? Because, what we see in our house with Survivor and Traitors, like, I don't know what's really fucking going down there. I don't know how much is filtered.
Oh, when it came to Survivor, I was like, they showed absolutely everything. Like, there was not, like, people would be like, is there anything that they didn't show of you or a scene? I'm like, God, I can't think of anything. They showed it all.
Really?
Yeah, like, I can't even be like, oh, they edited. There's certain things like where you, for example, when the season first started, it's like, I would say like the first two episodes, I'm just like flailing and screaming and like, woo! And being super loud and like probably a little annoying. But they easily could have just shown that the
Yeah.
whole season is just me screaming, sucking at every challenge and just being annoying. They could. And then shown people's reactions to me. They didn't do that. Instead, they chose to show that I'm not some one-dimensional cartoon character. Because
Yeah.
it's like, I think that like in the past they have edited people where they don't, or
Yeah.
maybe those people don't have like, maybe that they are, I have no idea. But I was afraid that I would just be some cartoon. And thankfully, it's like, because I did share a lot of myself, I did put a lot on the table. So it's like, if you start the season, it's like, okay, she's annoying. Then it's like, okay, there's more to this person than just the screams and the. So I'm glad that they were able to show like that I'm not a one-dimensional character.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that they really do show up in the way that portrays you, because like sometimes it could be really like manipulative because they need certain types of characters to
Oh
bring.
yeah, I was warned about this. Like, if they want a certain narrative, I think they will be like, so tell me about, or how
Hmm.
was, but I never, I'm like, no, that don't fit. Cause I remember specifically, this is like, and then I think that they kind of realize like, okay, I can't do that with this person. Cause I'm like, you're not going to like change my narrative. So
Yeah.
like they had, when I was describing my addiction, they were like, okay, so you grew up in Minnesota, your dad was a politician, so that must have been a really, really stressful. He must have been like really, and I'm like, no,
No.
not at all. And they were like, did he put certain? They were like, did he put a lot of pressure on you, or was it? Did he not accept you, or did? I'm like, no. I go, my dad's the most accepting person ever. I'm like, and I told a story about like about coming home and being like, yeah, dad, I'm dating a woman right now, and he didn't say shit. He didn't say like, oh, Carolyn, you're a lesbian, or Carolyn,
Yeah.
he didn't care. It was like, oh, I love who you love, or who, like, do you know what I'm
That's
saying? It was
so
never a like
incredible.
big. So I go, no, that's not my
Don't
story.
yeah.
That's not, my dad doesn't give a shit like that. No.
But you know what? That's important to paint a picture here, because I do think, and this is the scariest part about being a mom, is we are so quick to throw so much of our own trauma and shame and bad decisions on our parents. And I love that you're like, no, I'm going to own that. My parents were great. I just made the bad fucking decisions.
It's true.
I chose this. So it's just really unique, typical therapy talk. But I do want to talk about your sexuality now that you bring it up, because I do think it's an important thing to talk about. What was that aha moment for you? Or you were just like, kind of always like fucked with like girls?
No.
Or was it a one moment like, oh my God, I see the light, honey?
I think
I like it over here.
It was, because like right now I'm like so loving being single that I don't even entertain it. Like at this point I'm like, am I asexual? No, I'm not kidding you. I'm so like, oh, okay. But no, it was when I was trying to find myself and figure out who I was, and just really like just through therapy and really just reading so many self-help books and reading so much and journaling and I'm like, wow, this makes sense for me. And I was like, I think I'm a pansexual. And so it just, after that, it became
self-diagnosing.
That's it. Like, I'm like, this makes sense. And I just went with it. And so again, when I meet people, it's like it's truly, it's the person, and that's it. And that's all I don't
You just see the person. You don't see gender, sexuality, you don't see anything.
Person.
Which I think that's great. I think that's really lovely. And I know so many friends who like are the exact same way. And I've been with everything and anyone under the sun. I've kind of dabbled in it all. So I get it. Like if you give me this sparkly feeling, like I think to be with someone for a lifetime is very hard. We're not beasts who should be doing that in general, but
Is that a thing? Because I've been trying to research about this recently. Is that really a thing that you're not supposed? Because I'm like, I'm still believing in the puffins.
It takes such long. Think about how much you've changed, just like in the last 5 years.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
And then talk about like having and going through that season of change constantly with someone else navigating their own personal growth or hardship or trauma or children. Like there's just so much shit in life. For you to stay consistently connected takes so much work, period. And you have to be like willing to do the work. And some people are 95% committed to the work where others are 5%. And then the pendulum swings. So it's like, it's a mind fuck, truthfully.
I mean,
that's why we have a divorce rate over 50% of people who are married get divorced. Like, well, no shit. Why like our world is wildly toxic, in my opinion.
God.
Things are changing 24/7. We're being fed crazy shit all the time on the news, social media. Of course, we're all over the goddamn place. Like nothing's easy anymore.
No. And there's just so much, obviously, it's like with social media, with, you get bored. And so I used to have this really immature view on love. Like I'm talking about a long time ago when I was like in my early 20s, where I thought like, if it takes work, then it's not meant to be. I truly thought that. I thought that like, if those butterflies fade, then that's not the one. I didn't know any better. And I have realized that it is work, and it is, but it's like, that's exhausting too. So it's hard. It's like, you have to be able to put in that. And we're in the place that I'm in right now. It's like, that's like truly going through like just shit and putting up with shit or dealing with shit, going through just the experiences that I have.
Yeah.
Has truly helped me to just realize like what I do not want in my life, what I won't put up with anymore. And it feels so good. I've never been one of those people who goes
Mm.
from relationship to relationship to relationship. I remember even people being like, Carolyn, don't you want to date? Don't you? Like, it'll be fun. Just do it for fun. Hell no, is that? That ain't fun for me to go meet and interview all these people. No, hell no. And
Mm-mm.
again, like, that's a big investment. That's a lot of my time. But I
Yes.
get this like radar that goes off now. As soon as somebody is stressing me out, as soon as it's like, nee, 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 bye.
Yeah.
I don't put up with it for more than 2 seconds now. I flick them
Mm.
aside. Like, I just don't. I protect my peace and I just don't
Oh,
want
that's
nothing to
it.
do with it.
I always say this, protecting your peace and setting boundaries is an invaluable lesson everyone needs to learn. It is just,
Absolutely.
it is so, so important in this day and age to really understand the things that feed you and your soul and the things
Oh,
that take from you. So with that, I'm curious, you left a very, and I like, and I love your openness about it because there's so many women in abusive relationships who don't have the tools to leave, and you did, but you stayed for a while. And what gave you the strength to say, I deserve better. I don't have to sit in this. This doesn't have to be my future. I don't have to carry the shame and trauma, and neither does my son.
truly. I don't want to say like Survivor gave me it helped to just like go and do that on my own, and just the time of reflection and the time
Yes.
of just like, and even honestly, even the support I got afterwards, and even hearing like once I finished the show, it was like, I don't have like, I'm not tied down to this person. I have like now the financial means to do this too. So it's like,
Mm.
when I was going through that, it's like I never believed like the stuff. I never believed I was a piece of shit or believed like the bad stuff that was said about me. It's just hard to ever accept. I think that like someone you've like committed this much time into this a relationship that you've been in for so long. It's like I didn't want to. I almost was in denial. Like, I don't want to believe that this is happening. I don't
Mm.
want to. And I did. I lied to myself. I wanted, it to work. I wanted to, but it's like I got to this point where it's like, okay, I need to, I got to do better for myself
Mm.
and for my kid. And that's it. Like, I have to do something. And I really do just credit like just my time away and being able to process and being able to just finally realize that I can do things on my own. I'm
Mm.
stronger than I ever freaking thought. And it's not just, and I'm not talking like, strength is like challenge shit on Survivor, but just the mental and just knowing my own limits of like, how much can I, like, I don't need to put up with this anymore. I don't
No.
need to go through this anymore. I deserve better. And again, I always like knew that deep down, but it's like, I'm done. Like, I can't
Yeah.
do this.
It's a brave thing to do. It's a hard thing to do no matter the circumstances, especially when children are involved. And I've lived it. I totally get it. I'm so empathetic to families who have to go through the storm and then hold up, an umbrella and make sure their children don't get wet through their own shit. So it's like a really heavy process. And what is it like now to be with, have the clarity and have the freedom and, have all this success? And it sounds to me what you're saying is, I've been tested, I've learned from it, I see clarity, and now I want to execute on the life I've always imagined because I have the means.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry because I'm still very much like in this shit and it
Yeah.
sucks. And I try just like, I am proud of myself.
Mm.
And I tell people, because people will say like, have some confidence and believe in yourself. It's like, I freaking do. But you know what? I've been told for a long time that I'm
Mm.
selfish and that the decisions I make are bad, or even like it took me so many years to even just like go and do things for me finally, and like it be okay. If
Mm.
when you have like, when hearing all, I'm selfish and the decisions I make are bad, and you go on Survivor and that's bad and blah blah blah. It takes I still do struggle with that, like the
Mm,
guilt and the um even if I leave and go away for a weekend or go and any time away from my son, I feel
mm,
guilty and feel, and it's like, okay, it's been hard to like transition into like the, okay, no, this is how I make my money now. This is my job. So yeah, this is my job. This is, but I am so, I still am really hard on myself when it comes to like just being a mom, because I want to be there and be, I know the perfect mom doesn't exist, but I've had years of like hearing bad stuff too. And so it's just hard to just undo that. And so
mm.
even with the success and even with like, you can have everyone say how wonderful you are, but it takes a while for like those wounds
Yeah.
to heal, truly. So that's why I have truly just continued to do work on myself. And I've spent, so when people are like, go and date and go and, that's not going to cure me, that's not going to help me, that's not going to this, I've told so many people, this is the work that I need to do. That's not anything that another human is going to cure me of or save me from. I need to feel it.
Mm,
So I've spent so many days sitting in my room journaling, crying. I feel it all. And it's
mm.
like, no, I'm protecting my own damn self now. And so now with like the good things happening, and I even remember like getting the call from the trade for the Traitors. I was like, I was so excited because it's such a huge show, and I'm like, who, me? But I still do suffer from, what do they call that, like imposter syndrome or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
hell. It's not that I don't think I'm great or whatever, but again, I still battle that 100%. I do.
I think that's also a very normal expectation as we go through life, learning and unlearning a lot of trauma. And this is, I mean, you know, this as a recovering addict, like it never just goes away.
No.
It's not, it takes work every single day. It takes commitment every single day. I am very much so that I have to choose joy every single day. It is something I have to actually commit
Yes.
to
Yes.
because it's easier for me to sit in silence and suffering than sit in joy. And it's an act. I have to do it. I have to show myself what it's like to be joyful because
Yep.
I know pain well. I can hold it. I love it. I feel at ease in the dark, like I am one of those. And I can point to it and say, I see you, I know you, I'm familiar with you, and I'm going to choose something else. And what I've learned so much about being a mom is so much of what our children learn is through the lens of our happiness. So I
Absolutely.
better fucking figure it out. And
Yeah.
I better
Yes.
I I need to start learning what brings me joy in my
Yes.
life. I have to figure out what makes me joyful and happy because if so much of my joy and happiness is dependent on the way they see themselves, I I'm up for the challenge, but also I deserve it.
Yes.
I deserve joy. I deserve happiness. I deserve all of the beautiful blessings that I didn't think I was worthy enough. And I think
Yes.
you need that. You are worthy enough for the gifts that life has given you and this journey because fuck, you've been through a lot of hardship and pain and you've really found your way. So what is next? What is this newfound fame? Because everyone who opens social media sees you. Everyone who watches Survivor and like everyone knows y'all as a group now on a very celebrity level. How has that impacted you in your small town? Like how has that impacted your son?
I like, it's hard, like, to honestly, like, even, and it's been like this for a while, where like when I go places with him, like I always feel guilty, like when it comes to, sometimes and it's not like I'm like celebrity
Mm.
status, but yes, when we go places, like I do feel bad. I'm like, I just want to be with my son. I don't want to be like talk. I was at Home Goods for like over an hour hugging people and like, and I'm just like, again, I'm only one person, and I don't get like the regular like, hey, I really loved your move out there. I thought you were great. No, I get like, Carolyn, you opened up about this. And so I want to tell you about my traumas, and I want to, and it's like, It's heavy shit that I
Shit.
hear. And
Mm.
so I was just at a bar in LA at it was like a survivor watch party. I went in the corner and I had my friend like blocking me and I was just like this. I'm like, don't let anyone near me for like 5 minutes. Like more recently, I'm like, no boundaries. I can't, no, no. And I say no to a lot of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I say no to a lot of events. I say no because it emotionally, mentally takes a lot out of me to, it's not that I don't care or I don't appreciate
Well,
it, but
you're an
like
empath. You take on the energy of other people.
it's too
You're an,
much.
you're an empath. And
It's
with
too much.
that, you have to protect your peace and yourself.
It's so true. And
That
I'm
is
like,
powerful. And your
I'm
son
like,
gets to see that.
yes.
So I wouldn't minimize that quality about you. And I think there's something special, but you definitely have to protect your peace when you're an empath because I feel that in my bones. When I walk into a room, I have a partner who can light up every single person and walk out with so much energy. I literally went to an event last night in the city and she was up at the top of the stairs and I was already out the door and she's laughing. I'm like, I want to go home. I can't give any more to this room.
Yes.
I'm zapped. And that's
I,
okay.
I've run when I'm not kidding. And I always wear like I'm tall. I'm tall anyway, but if I go to any of this crap, I always make sure to wear heels even taller so I can see above everybody. So I want to be like 6'2". I'm dead serious. So I can like not like control the room, but just know where everyone like be just whatever, be able to find people or whatever. I have run out so many times where I don't say goodbye. I don't
Yeah.
nothing. I
Mm-mm.
hit my like point of like, oh, okay, I can't handle anymore, and I start running, and that's
Running.
it.
Bye.
And I hide in the corner, and I'll be like, come and get
Shh.
me. I'm down the street.
Shut myself in a room and I need to just be done with the world. And
Yes.
that's the way we recharge. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but I think your gift is your vulnerability. I think
Oh, absolutely.
your gift to every person who can watch you, be with you, share space with you is your gift of vulnerability and your willingness to share your scars. And I think that's taking back your power in your journey and not letting shame dictate your journey and your story. And I am grateful for that. I appreciate your honesty to show up and be unapologetic and exactly who you are. And I'm rooting for you. I don't know what's next. I don't know what you want to do next, but it seems like you're in a good place and it's so nice to meet you. But if you could leave anything for our listeners and viewers, what would it be?
What just came to me is, and what I work on every single day is just pay attention to the words that you speak to yourself. I used
Oof.
to say so much nasty shit to myself that it became
Mm.
reality, but not only became reality, I believed it. And I know when it comes to, there's like debate about positive affirmations and like
Mm-hmm.
it's not about being like filling your brain with fluff or a bunch of bullshit. It's if I can believe all of the negative things I've said about myself and then make it my reality, why can't I believe the positive? So
Mm.
truly, do I have like bad thoughts that might creep up? Of course, but it's no longer the norm and it's no longer like if I get a thought like, "Oh, Carolyn, why'd you look bad?" or blah, whatever, you're a piece of shit. If I even get that for a second, I'm like, "Oh, that's now uncomfortable." Versus
Mm.
before when I was feeling my like, "Okay, Carolyn, you deserve this. You." It is. It's like I fucking do. I do believe that. Like I believe it now, but I pay attention to what I say to myself every single
Mm.
day because that is going to either make, like you said, you make that decision to like, okay, joy, and I have to turn that on. I have to like, how am I going to show up? But how am I talking to myself? That is
Yes.
absolutely going to dictate my day. So I
Yes.
am so aware of what I say to myself every moment.
I love
Oh,
that. I love that. And I think that's a good lesson for a lot of our younger generation right now who grow up on social media, which means people
oh,
have access to a lot of very, very toxic judgments and comments that are hurting our younger generation. Our suicide rates, our depression rates, like everything is skyrocketing, especially in the queer community. So I
oh.
think that's an important practice we need to focus more on is how we talk to ourselves because we'll show up differently. We'll show up into rooms a lot different and we need a little more positive forward thinking these days than the negative shit we're seeing on the news and the toxic masculinity that is being spewed all over the fucking place. So I love what you said, and I think it's important, and I know it's impactful, and I know you're changing the lives of a lot of people just by showing up and telling your story. So thank you for being on Wide Open. You are a sweetheart. Keep being exactly who you are. You are a light. You are a joy. And I see nothing but great things for you, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you, truly.
You're so sweet. Don't be sorry for being emotional. I'm grateful for your vulnerability.
I'll be crying for a little bit after this.
And
truly.
And I hope that we get some, some hang time coming up. I don't know if our paths will cross, but I hope they do.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on.